Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about smothered mate. So, the smothered mate is a very interesting type of mate. All you need is one knight. So, for those of you guys who do not know smothered mate, you might be thinking, how do you do this with only one knight? One knight could barely check a king, much less, trap a king in the corner. Well, the thing is, the knight is not doing the trapping. It's the king's own pieces that's doing the trapping. So smothered mate is usually when you have too many of your pieces just hugging your king in the corner, and they're just really close to your king, and your king can't get out. And the knight is checking the king, and yeah. So I'm gonna talk more about this checkmate later. So yeah, let's get started. Alright, so this is a smothered mate. So right now, I know white, he only has a knight versus black's 2 rooks, a knight, and a queen. It's a very unrealistic position unless you're playing against someone who doesn't know how to play chess at all. So basically, there's the knight on f7, and it's checking the king in the corner. And so notice that the king is in check, and the knight is not the one trapping the king. The king cannot move because his own pieces, a pawn, 2 pawns, and a rook, they simply just are blocking the king's path. So the reason why this is called smothered mate, well, if you know the term smothered, it means, kissed. And so this means that the black king is just getting too much affection from his own pieces. All of his pieces are just huddling around the king, and they're just, I wouldn't say kissing, but that's what smothering means. They're kissing. But let's use a different term, not kissing. Like, the pieces are just hugging the king, alright? And they just hug him a bit too tightly, and now the king cannot get out. And the knight just jumps into a party, and he's like, check, mate. So yeah, this is smothered mate. But you might be wondering, how can I get into this position? How can I get this smothered mate? You're probably assuming that your opponent is probably not going to pack his pieces around his king very tightly and allowing you to checkmate him like this. It'd be a pretty sad way to lose a game. So don't count on the fact that your opponent is going to be dumb enough to actually put himself in this position. So I'm going to show you guys how to do smothered mate. So in this more fair position, before it was a knight versus, it was white's knight versus black's knight, 2 rooks, and a queen. Now it's slightly more fair, not very, very fair. It's white's knight and a pawn and a queen versus black's 2 rooks and a queen. So as with any other checkmate, normally you want to start with a check. Any force mate, you want to start with a check. But notice that if you move his queen to check, well, you gotta keep on checking the king. Otherwise, if you stop checking the king for even a little bit, then black could just move one of his rooks to the first rank, and it'd be game over. So you want to try to check the black king every single time. So of course the right move is queen e6, because it's the only checking move. But remember the other position. You wanna try to get into that position. So you want to force the king into h8. Somehow get the rook on d8 to move to g8, and then somehow get your knight to f7. Now this might seem a lot. You gotta try to force 3 pieces into a position that you want them to be in, but it's not a lot. So first, you want to check with the queen. Check. Now, thing is, black, he's kind of forced into the corner. Notice that, king f8, then it'd just be checkmate with queen f7. So that was the first move in forcing the black king into the corner. Now, what you want now is to move the black rook. You're playing as white, so you can't move your opponent's pieces, but you want to try to force the black rook onto g8 so that it hugs its king a bit tightly. So how do you do this? Remember, black, he has the possibility of moving one of his rooks down to the first rank. He could move his black rook to c1 or his black rook to d1, and that'll be game over after queen tries to block on e1. So you gotta keep on checking. What's the only other checking method that's actually, safe? So one checking method is moving your queen to e8, but that's just suicide. That's not getting anything. The rook does not move to g8. You can move your queen to g8, but then the king just captures. If the rook captures, then just count yourself lucky, but I'm pretty sure if you have a smart opponent, the rook is not going to capture, because then black is going to see, okay, checkmate is knight f7. So queen options, they're done. You can't check with the queen. Only other option is checking with knight f7, and that's the answer. So you might be looking at this and you're like, oh, it's a fork. So once the king moves back to a g8, then my knight could just take on a d8. Thing is, you're gonna be losing, because then it's not gonna do a lot of stuff. And remember, material is worth less than the checkmate, so you just stick with the checkmate. So now the king moves back. Now what are you gonna do? Are you gonna keep on moving your knight back to g5, continue checking back and forth until you get a draw? You could do that. If you don't see the checkmate, you could try to go for a stalemate, so that you don't get checkmated by one of the rooks. But remember, you want to win. So you want to keep on checking the king. Now, again, queen to e8 still will not work. You could move the knight away, but where away? Because moving the knight away anywhere, it will check the black king. But you want to move your knight to an actually useful spot so that it checks the king and prepares for checkmate. You don't, because remember, you're in danger from a checkmate yourself. So what do you want to do? You want to take the rook and check. Thing is, it actually won't work. I mean, yeah, you take the rook for free. The black queen cannot take back, because then the black king will be in check, and black gotta worry about that. But remember in the other board, we saw that the rook was on g8, and it was just hugging the king too tightly, and then there was a knight on f7. Now, if there was a queen on g8, then the knight, if it was undefended, it could just get captured by the queen. So you want a rook on g8 to make your life easier, so that it cannot capture the knight that would be undefended on f7. So capturing the rook is a no-go. Moving the knight here, it's not going to be that useful. Black king just moves back into h8 and you're just stuck. And then moving it to e5, same result. Moving it to g5, same result. Moving it to h8, that's just suicide for your knight. I mean, yeah, you could play fried liver, but this is free fried liver. Now, only other option is moving your knight to h6, double checking the king. So notice that the knight is not in danger now. I mean, yeah, it's in danger, but it cannot get captured by black's pawn on g7, because then black's king will still be in check by the queen. So this is going to be a good move, and you'll see why. So remember how we wanted, so notice that black's king still cannot go to f8 because queen f7 will be checkmate. So black king goes back into a corner. Now notice, remember when the knight was on g5, like 2 moves back, and we were debating, okay, queen, since we needed a check really badly, so that black won't checkmate us, we gotta keep on checking black. So remember when we were thinking, okay, what if queen e8 works? No, it didn't work. Free queen for black. Alright, what about queen g8? Does that work? Before it didn't, because the king could just capture back. And as we said, remember when we said the rook on d8? It could capture the queen, but that's only if your opponent's kind of dumb and just, not really thinking to the next move. Well, now the black king cannot take the queen back. Now black has to take the queen with his rook. A few moves ago, taking with his rook would have been suicide. But now black has no other option. And now the rook kind of hugs its king a bit too tightly. And that just is checkmate afterwards. Pieces just hugs its king, and they're like, not allowing the king to escape. So yeah, that will be about it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and learned a lot about the Smothered mate. If you guys did, leave a like, subscribe, and click that notifications bell to see more chess videos.